Welcome to Season 3 of the Guardians of Hope podcast. We are a community of parents, educators, health, legal, and tech experts dedicated to positively impacting children's lives. The thoughts and opinions of my guests are not my own. This is a platform for sharing. Welcome, everyone. Many of us, especially parents, face struggles at some point in our lives. This stress can include family issues, work challenges, or even problems in romantic relationships. The struggles often come with anxiety, sadness, anger, or fear. Often, talking to someone like a friend can help you feel better, but there may be some times when these steps don't resolve the issue. When this happens, it may be time to consider seeking the help of a qualified licensed therapist or psychologist. But how do you know if therapy is needed? Joining me to discuss this is Dr. Caroline Danda, a licensed clinical psychologist specializing in cognitive behavioral therapy for children and adolescents. Dr. Danda joined us in a previous episode where we discussed the signs your child may need therapy. She's here today to help us talk about adults. Dr. Danda, thank you so much for joining me today.
Excited to be here.
Excellent. So our audience knows you, so I'm going to dive right in and start with the first question. According to research from 2024, therapy seems to be in high demand. What patterns or shifts in recognizing the need for therapy have you seen?
It's definitely more top of mind now. We just had the Surgeon General recently who said both the mental health crisis for youth as well as the parents are not all right, that the parents are struggling as well. So we have a lot more information about normalizing, that it's okay to struggle, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to get help, that we don't have to do it all on our own. And I think that's made a big shift. Kids today, there's a lot more mental health in the schools, and they are more attuned to their mental health and their emotions as well. And so I find that sometimes the kids are asking for therapy, or they'll know other kids. They'll talk to their friends about going to therapy. So I think that it's a little bit something that is like, okay, maybe this therapy isn't just for crisis, or maybe it's not just like for the bad kids, right? I feel like
Right.
before there was a stigma of there was something that was really wrong with you if you had to go to therapy, that you're broken. And now I think it's more preventative in a way. When we see something that's not going in the direction we want, I think we can recognize that there's a challenge, and we can start intervening sooner versus later.
Yeah. And you know what? You make such a great point. And I wanted to ask about that specifically. It's unfortunate that many people see therapy as a treatment, as a reaction to ongoing issues or trauma or undiagnosed mental illness.
Right.
And it's often seen as a taboo thing. Um, how do we lessen the stigma around that, Dr. Danda?
I think one is reframing therapy as a sign of actually being strong enough to ask for help. Being independent doesn't mean you have to go it alone. Being independent means you kind of know what you know, and you also know what you don't know, and you're okay with asking for help. And going to therapy shouldn't necessarily be seen as a last resort, or, well, I guess I have to go to therapy because I'm a failure. I think that's one of the barriers to seeking therapy, because parents may feel like they're a failure. They feel like maybe they should have already understood it. Kids too, especially people who are perfectionists, like they don't want to go in because it feels like a failure. So bottom line, one of the reasons that we want to remove the stigma is seeing therapy as a support, that it's learning about life skills. It's learning about how to address a challenge, much like asthma. So if you had a flare up of asthma and it was difficult to control, you would go to the doctor to figure out how to manage that. And just like asthma, like once you kind of understand what's going on, you can also understand how to approach it, how to treat it. Then those mental health concerns go to the background. So really looking at therapy as resilience building, it can help you through the challenges you're having that bring you in, but it will also go beyond those initial challenges to build resilience and life skills that can support life moving forward.
Yeah, I love the analogy of comparing mental health to physical health because we go to the dentist when we don't have a problem. We go twice a year. Some of us go more, but
Yes.
you go there for maintenance. If my son has asthma, so we see his pulmonologist twice a year as well, just for
Mhm.
checkups. So why wouldn't you think of mental health as an extension of your physical health? It absolutely is. So that's such a great point.
And I
Yeah.
had a kiddo even say that, like, everybody should go to therapy just as a check-in sometimes.
Hmm.
Even 3 to 4 every 3 to 4 months, just like you might go to the doctor for a checkup. Particularly if you do have something that's chronic and ongoing. I do find that's true for the families and kids that I see is, again, they'll come in because there really is something that is presenting significant challenges and really disrupting life. And then a
Hmm.
lot of times we'll have a few sessions, anywhere from 5 to maybe 15, I would say, and then we may taper off and I may not see them all the time, but occasionally as life again happens, we're always evolving, our life circumstances change. So they may come back and check back in, and they may not need, all of those sessions, but sometimes coming in for kind of booster sessions can be really helpful as we're
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah, and the good news is the research that I've seen is that the younger generation of adults are more proactive in seeking
Right.
therapy, and it is more normalized. It's not a stigma as much as it is for older generations, according to the research that I've seen.
Right.
So
And I
this
would
is
say a number
positive.
of parents seeking therapy for their kids, a lot of them are already seeking have been in therapy before, either as a child or they're seeking therapy for themselves as an adult. And so I think
Yeah.
that's another thing that reduces the stigma of it is I think my generation, pretty much we just didn't talk about feelings.
Mhm.
It was a kind of a suck it up buttercup kind of approach. And I
Yeah.
feel like we are starting to move beyond that, where we can acknowledge that, yes, we have feelings and yes, we have struggles. Um, and that's something that we can work through, not get
Mhm.
stuck in or
Absolutely.
bury. Because I
Yeah.
think many people have found it's not the greatest coping skill to just grit your teeth and get through it. I mean, sometimes in a situation that's what you need to do, but as a general coping skill for life, the
Yeah.
the whole suck it up and grit your teeth is not effective in having a successful life as a human being.
Mhm.
It still causes a lot of distress.
Yes, for sure. And it's not modeling behavior for children either,
Right.
Oh yeah. All good points. So, you are now pointing me into another question where we talk about parents who grin and bear it, and are putting everyone else's needs first. It can be especially hard to recognize when their own mental health needs attention. What are some specific signs or patterns that indicate it's time to seek professional help rather than pushing through or relying on friends and family for support?
I think one of things is really looking at the level of distress, how
Hmm.
consistent that distress it is, how disruptive it is. If you're feeling exhausted, depleted, you're confused, you're unsure of where to go, you're feeling maybe burned out, then that's a sign that you may need some support outside of what you're getting already from family and friends. And really, we have to think about therapy as not just rent a friend. That's not what therapy is. Therapy is designed to help understand you and give you coping skills for life. And so it's helping you do what you really want to do, but maybe be not able to do because of just the emotional dysregulation or that you're exhausted. So I'm always thinking about, how frequently is something happening, how intense it is, how long is it lasting, and how much is it getting in the way. And if you see those consistent patterns, just know there's a better way. It really sometimes can only take a few sessions to realize it. I know, I mean, even I, as a psychologist, I'm dealing with kids all the time and their parents. And, I had to go, not had to go, I chose to go to my own
Mhm.
therapy too, because I knew that I needed it, because when I'm emotionally drained or tired or not feeling 100% in my mental health, then I can't show up and be the person or the parent that I want to be.
Right.
And so that is a huge component when you think about, should I go seek therapy?
Yeah. Um, let's talk about what goes into finding therapy, right? Like I think we should go through some steps or some strategies for parents because finding a therapist can be overwhelming. There are so
Mhm.
many different types and specialties and approaches to therapy. Can you walk us through how someone should even start to find the right therapist for their needs? What questions do they ask? And how do you know once you meet the therapist if that person is a good fit for you?
Those are great questions. What I would say is, honestly, word of mouth is a great way to start. If you can share that you're struggling, again, that's part of being connected, that's part of being in community. And I guarantee you, you are not the only one going through a challenge. And so, a lot of times, I would say at this point, I get a lot of my referrals from word of mouth, because that feels like, okay, it's a trusted resource, or you can talk to your physician or your pediatrician. And I think that kind of gives you a good sense of things. Also, these days, pretty much most therapists and psychologists will have a website. They'll have some kind of online presence. And
Mhm.
that may also give you a sense of who they are, what their specialties is. Most websites will also give details about, where they're located, whether they take insurance, what their fees are. It can give you a lot of great information on the websites. So you can Google different types of therapists, and usually you can say, like, here's what I'm feeling, I want some therapy, like, and that may help you guide there. And then, if you can talk to the person that you're going to see for even 10 or 15 minutes, like, that may also give you a sense of whether or not it's a good fit. Um,
Mhm. That is a great tip. Now, what about the costs associated with finding a therapist? I'm sure you can find that information online or through insurance, but can you help us
yeah,
with some parents who are worrying about the cost, the time commitment, in person versus virtual
right.
appointments, consistency? Um, how does it
Yeah,
look?
all those
Um,
things.
yeah, everything.
I mean, and again, the answer is always it depends.
Hmm.
There's a wide range. There are many therapists that and psychologists who are out of network, but there are a lot that are also in network. A lot of times, your insurance company may be able to give you a list, and so you can find out what there is, what's covered under your insurance. You also have to look at. It can get costly if you have a high deductible, so that is a concern. But a
Hmm.
lot of times, there's also trainees. A lot of clinics, mental health clinics, may have trainees, and so you can get a lower cost, or you can get a sliding scale for that. Um, I don't know as much about some of the other online therapy, such as like BetterHelp or other types of things, but I know that that is certainly something that's out there. And I think that's a lower cost option. So that could be
Hmm.
something where you might be able to search up for that. And therapy is anywhere, I would say, depending on what the situation is, it can be, weekly to every other week. And again, with parents, sometimes it can be with the kids. So a lot of times I do a lot of parenting work with the kids that really
Hmm.
helps the parents also feel more calm and settled and confident. And then if I see that they need more than what I can provide as part of that part of therapy, that's when I might refer out and say, you know what, I think this makes sense, because if you're feeling better about, who you are and what you're doing and are managing your own life, again, you can show up more easily for your kid. So it is a little bit of an undertaking. I agree with that.
Hmm.
But it's also thinking about, there's a cost to not going to therapy. And I
Definitely.
think that's what you want to weigh in and say, this is really important. Can I, eliminate my Starbucks, or can I eliminate certain things that are really wants, to prioritize like having therapy. And again, it shouldn't be something that is forever. It really
Right.
should be something that is forever. I joke that my job's to work myself out of a job. Because people don't live in my office, right? And so a good therapist should be somebody who you feel gets you. That they should understand you and that you're working together on goals. I always like to ask, like, what are your goals? What would life look like? How would it be different after meeting with me? So it
Hmm.
is very collaborative and thinking about how we want to make this work, and trying to be open and transparent about what we're working on, so that they understand this is kind of what we're looking for. I can't always give like a say, like it will be a 10-session course or whatever. But I can say, like, usually in these cases, this is what I'm looking for. And as we're moving along, we still kind of update and say how we think things are going, or how, do we need to decrease sessions? Do we need to increase sessions? It really just depends. And so having an open communication with a therapist is a sign that it's a good fit, um,
Yeah.
for therapy, and it can be so worth it, because it can make a big difference, not just in the situation you're in at the moment, but again, what you learn in therapy often goes beyond that particular moment and builds moving beyond, because you may be learning about different communication patterns. You may be learning about how, relationship dynamics work. You may be learning about different forms of how do I manage stress and anxiety. That's one of the things that if parents are when I'm working with kids that have anxiety, a lot of times parents are part of the session. And I tell you what, they learn so much and they're so grateful to also understand it. And I think it just, again, opens the door to that communication and understanding.
Yeah. And I feel like through my experience, it translates in different areas of your life. Like it doesn't always apply to the situation that you're in now. Like I've noticed that the way that I approach things is learned from something that I may have learned to cope with years ago. And now I'm dealing with it in another situation. So,
Right.
yeah, it really can translate across different areas of your life. And that's why I love and advocate for getting children into therapy early if needed, because children, like they say, are sponges and they can benefit the most, I think, from learning
Right.
these coping skills. Yeah. Okay.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
said.
Thanks. I've been learning from you, Dr. Danda. What can I say? I have one more question for you. And this is how we talk about therapy with our kids, and how handling our own mental health directly impacts them. Can you talk about how seeking therapy, we touched upon this earlier, but maybe offer some more advice or tips on how it actually models healthy behavior for our kids, improves our parenting, and also what should parents tell their kids about their own therapy? Like, yes.
Right. Like, I think
Mhm.
it's, just, I kind of look at sometimes, I look at therapy just like, sometimes we get tutoring for academics,
Right.
right? So going to therapy is like a tutor for life skills. Or if, you have, some kind of, injury or something, muscle injury, and you need to go to physical therapy. And so I really look at it a little very similarly to that, is like, I'm going to go to my brain coach, or I'm going to go to my feelings doctor, and they help me understand myself and live life. And so I talk about that in general terms. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of all the things maybe I've learned in therapy, with my kids. Might share that with my partner. That would be a good thing to share. But it I just look at it as like, just like, again, I go to physical therapy, or I go to the doctor, or I go, go to tutoring. So really normalizing going to therapy is kind of how I would look at it. And then it also models that that it's okay to not be okay and to get support, that is something that is appropriate. And it also opens the door for kids too. So if they know that you're going to therapy as a parent, then, then they may not feel like, oh, I am a bad kid and now I have to go to therapy. I would
Mhm.
say on that, never threaten therapy. Never say like, well, if you don't shape up, we're going to have to go to the therapist. That's never an effective way to approach therapy, as because that does give the idea that something's wrong with you and that you're a bad kid, rather than, hey, we're just struggling, we got to figure something out. So I'm not sure that I don't, it's also modeling like, I don't have all the answers. And so I'm
Yeah.
going to seek some support so that I can feel more confident in what I'm doing. And I want to be able to try new things. What I'm doing isn't working as well as I want to.
Yeah. It humanizes the experience. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm. Dr. Danda, thank you so much. It's always great to have you on. Can you share information about where people can reach you or learn more about your work?
Yes, I've got a website, carolinedanda.com, so that's easy to remember. I'm also on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. So you can also find me in those areas. So on my website, you can find me for both therapy and speaking, and that's where you can find me.
All right. I always appreciate having you on. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy our conversations. They're so helpful. All the topics that you dive into, it's so helpful to get these like brief, you know,
Mhm.
it's a brief but deep dive into a specific topic that so many people wonder about, whether it's this or some of the other topics that you're doing. It's great to have that foray into it so that you kind of know where to start. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for all the things you're doing.
Of course, I appreciate that feedback. I love it. Thank you so much.
All right.